And hi everyone, welcome to this opening episode of this second season of the Future of Urban AI webinar series. It's a great pleasure to welcome you today for this opening episode. My name is Hubert and I'm the founder of Urban AI. Just a few words about the project, this initiative, this methodology before starting officially this new season and this episode with Damiano. So, few words about the future of Urban AI. If you were already there last year, you might already be aware of the methodology which is driving this project, but basically we are directly drawing inspiration from the Future of Urban Tech Horizon Scan, which is a project realized by the Jacobs Technion-Cornell Institute at Cornell Tech. So in this project that has been realized and led by Anthony Thompson, who is also with us today and also leading this webinar series, you have this dynamic map which is representing different trends, urban tech trends based on different signals, articles, online content, but not only. And by navigating in this map, you can see different urban tech futures, different hot topics, and different big trends. And basically what we did last year with Anthony is focusing on the AI part of this graph, which is not only limited to AI technology, but many other urban technologies. And we try to understand the role of urban AI technologies in this graph by identifying signals and trends where this technology is mentioned. And by doing so, we first identified several hot topics, which allowed us actually to create this first season last year, through which we explored 10 different urban AI futures based on the horizon scan. And so that's how last year we launched this inaugural season, and during which we interviewed several urban AI experts, worldwide urban AI experts, and discussed fascinating topics such as self-repairing cities, synthetic population, Internet of Nature, and the quantified canopy. Just to let you know, following this webinar series, this first webinar series, we published a report called the Future of Urban AI report, co-authored by Urban AI, Cornell Tech, and on which you also have actually a foreword from Michael Batty. And in this report, we basically summarized, synthesized the main insight of each episode and the learning of this project. So if you are interested in this initiative, you can basically tap on Google the Future of Urban AI report, and you will easily find it. So that was for the first edition, and now following the success of the inaugural season, we are launching this new season, second season, exploring new trends, exploring new futures, urban AI futures, 8 new urban AI futures actually, still based on the Future of Urban Tech Horizon Scan. So this is the calendar, the program of this new season. We'll start today with Damiano Cerrone to talk about generative AI. Next week, we'll keep working and discussing generative AI with Alexander Kamenev, who is the CEO of Eno World, and then we'll discuss many other topics related again to urban maintenance, real estate, and urban planning. So just to let you know, that's where we are now, embarking together collectively on this amazing journey. We continue to explore together weekly those trends, this forecast. And if you also want to contribute, if you want to help, feel free to let us know. This is definitely an open project and a collective journey. So that's all for the presentation of the project and the methodology. And today we have the great pleasure to welcome Damiano Cerrone, who is the co-founder of Urbanist AI, and who will tell us more about the impact of generative AI on urban planning and more precisely on participatory planning. Damiano, the floor is all yours. Sorry, just before giving you the floor, if you have any questions, any comments, any reaction, feel free to use the chat. We'll first have a 20-minute presentation from Damiano, and then a 20-minute Q&A session with all of you. Damiano, this time the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Do you see my screen, full screen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So yes, thank you for having me here. I'm really happy to join this conversation. And I'm really happy to show you also what we've been doing with Urbanist AI in the past almost year. I'm Damiano, I'm one of the co-founders, and I've been working for quite a few years now on different fields. So from academic research, mostly focusing on biodiversity in cities. On the policy level, I've been working mostly on the kind of roadmaps for policymakers. And then on planning, I've been focusing a bit more on city form. However, I started to work together with Luca Stornoiuolo and Lisa, the other co-founders, Lisa Gazeva, on the Urbanist AI. And I started to work on Urbanist AI because I noticed the strong need for cities to change the way they do participatory planning. So what we need to do, we need to start to harness the power of collective intelligence when we look at urban design. What this means to democratize the process. It's already quite democratic, I would say, but we need to improve the engagement part of it because we need to be able to successfully negotiate urban change, and we need to do that joyfully. So right now, participatory planning is not really a fun thing to do. What's also really important about that is that what AI allows us to do, allow us to generate images to better express our ideas. But that's not the only point. The point is to shift the role of the participants from commentators to placemakers. So nowadays, when we invite citizens, stakeholders, business owners, investors to co-design the city, we usually ask them questions. So we do questionnaires. What we want to do, we want to change this because we get their answers, but they don't get much from the process itself. So with Urbanist AI, it's rather about turn the smart city into a wise city. So to rebuild human networks and bring them together in these sessions that we do. Usually what happens with Urbanist AI is that you might be familiar, of course, with any other generative AI model. So we can produce, of course, visuals of this kind. So usually our sessions, well, they're always customized by different contexts, but we try to start with the imagination process. So we're trying to understand what is the general concept that we want to produce, and then apply that concept to a specific area. So it means actually modifying images of cities that can also be taken by the citizens themselves. So we can also have the participants to shoot the images and then modify them with the phones. But anyway, so this is sort of the general process. First, there's ideation, and then there's co-creation of those places. Ideation is needed because when somebody comes to a workshop and you ask, how would you like to change your city? It's a quite difficult question. That's why we have architecture schools. That's why we have design schools, because being creative is extremely hard. And that's been one of the first things we try to address in Urbanist AI. It's how to create these kind of workshops, events, sessions that actually amplify human aspirations and helps them to come up with new ideas. So basically, of course, it's about giving them access to this technology, but giving them access to a technology which is designed purposely for co-designing something. So all the other platforms out there, they're fantastic and powerful, but of course, they're designed for professionals or they're designed for you alone using it. We have designed Urbanist AI to be a cooperative platform, so where people can actually work together. There is also like a voting platform because cities needs to be accountable. So we need to ensure that decisions taken in the meetings are also democratic and so on. But we can get back to that later. We actually started to do these sessions in 2015 already without AI, because it was already something we wanted to understand. Like, it's getting almost like 8 years now, because we wanted to understand if this is. Let's put it this way: the main issue was in participatory planning. It was to communicate ideas and evaluate ideas. Because usually what happens is that we put a map of a city and then we ask people, okay, this is the map of your neighborhood. Now please tell us what do you want and where. That's so difficult question to ask, especially with a map. And even worse when we ask it through a post-it. And what is the issue with that is that it's very difficult for people to visualize their own ideas and evaluate them. While with images, we solve this issue. First of all, we can, it's a universal language. So images are universal, and most of all, images have power. So, and if images have power, it means that images are power, and we want to distribute this power as much as possible. So this is what Urbanist AI is about, and what the work that we do is about. So this is not, let's say, an app. We actually work, I mean, it is an app in practice, but what we are an organization that works with other organizations to organize events, sessions, workshops, and so on. And each workshop is different because also each city is different and each process is different. So for instance, not always there is a concrete project. So sometimes we just want to capture the imaginary of the future of the city. So we create those citizens mood board. And again, this is something you can already do today with any other tool, but the difference is that we place those mood boards into the design process of cities. We place those mood boards before competition briefs, before design guidelines. So actually we use those mood boards to generate design guidelines. So what we can do is that we can start a new project from the citizens imaginary, which is really important because today design processes, they start from one architect imaginary, one office imaginary. We want to do the opposite. We want to inspire designers through social imaginary. And we started basically, so after many years of development, because when we started exactly in 2015, 16, we were using artists. So we were doing these workshops with artists depicting what people were saying. And then we started in 2018, Luca, so almost 5 years ago, one of the co-founder, Luca Sornaiolo, he started to train his own AI models in Venice with the students. And then it was displayed at the time at the Venice Architecture Biennale. And since 2018, we decided to train these models. And it took so long only because public administration and cities, they thought at the time that AI was this kind of scary thing. So from 2018, it took us until 2023 sort of to start to see this change and cities wanting to use AI. And indeed, we got this, I think, quite good reference, which is the shortlist by the OECD as one of the innovation of the year. So this was in February. And then the first, let's say, public show of Urbanist AI was done at this conference, the World Government Conference in Dubai. And it was very interesting because here for the first time, people could actually come and interact with this technology. So choosing an image, transforming the image, and so on. And this is not based on DALL-E or any of the other APIs. This is running on our own machines, and we have full control in also training the model, which is something I can tell also a bit later. So many of our partners are using this for participatory planning, and they've been quite creative. It's been a very interesting process. So this is City Lab Berlin. They've been running around Berlin in the summer with this container, and they would open the shipping container, and they would have workshops on, creativity, workshops on placemaking, workshops on, I think they also focused a lot on recycling. And then the Urbanist AI was always there with images from their neighborhoods, and people could just go there and reimagine their own neighborhood. So this is the point, is that kind of we use AI to negotiate urban change. We use AI to strengthen and support human networks. We use it in a way that people have to come together, let's say, to actually use this tech. Because co-creation for us is the base of innovation. So this is the thing that is very important for us. Another example of this kind is in Cleveland, in the USA, East Cleveland actually, where it's very interesting. Urbanist AI was one of the main elements. I think this is one of the best way to run a workshop actually, is that you have very tangible aspects of it. For instance, citizens were asked to put their ideas on this, you see this kind of a mock-up of the neighborhood. And then after they put their ideas there, they could test them and evaluate them with AI. These are some examples. And what I like of it is that they're not exactly, when you look at these stable diffusion things, they're always kind of, they're out there. But the reality of urban planning is this, is that citizens sometimes they just need to decide what kind of mural they want, or they need to decide together how to transform that little lot that now is empty. So this is the reality of things, actually. And I think this is where the power of this technology also is. We don't collect only images, but we also collect stories. So we need to also speak, we need to have the sound of the people behind those images. So it's very interesting here. So Seventh Hill, which was the partner there that has been running these workshops, they did an amazing job in documenting also like the actual experiences behind the ideas that people had. So as I said before, we want to shift this role of people from stakeholders as commentators to placemakers. And I have some examples here where in Pristina, United Nations Development Program has been working with us to basically redesign or co-design with the citizens kind of the blocks, one block of Pristina. So there was a local architecture office that of course made the main plan. And then with Urbanist AI, what we did is that we turned all the previous conversations that citizens had into images, generated with AI, of course. And then those images were chosen, exactly, were printed out, and then people could choose their favorite there. And then if their favorite was not there, they could always, open the Urbanist AI and try again. So, but this was really good experience. And this is a real project that is kind of now in phase of transformation. So I guess in a few months also this project will be finished, and they will transform the green areas and the parking areas in this block based on the citizens' input. This one from Helsinki. It was in January of this year. So it's almost a year now, actually. And on the top right corner, you see the citizens reimagining the street. And then at the bottom, the way it was actually built. So this is great, actually, because usually to co-design a street and actually build it can take a year because the negotiation process takes so long. But this way, what happened is that we had the citizens, we had all the stakeholders, we had the architecture office in charge, and also, of course, the city planners that know what the budget is. And with Urbanist AI, they could discuss, test their ideas, and take a decision in 3 hours, in a 3 hours workshop. This meant that basically the architecture office could actually focus on the design because the ideas came from the citizens, and actually design and complete the building phase quite quickly. And this is also another example. So this is another square of Helsinki. It's the Design Museum Square. And it was also designed and built with the same process, also within 4 to 5 months from the workshop. Then it was actually built by WSP. So this is sort of how we see this technology to be like, right? So we really wanted this technology something that is embedded into the co-design process of cities. And so we need to keep on developing the method. So of course, like we need to keep on developing the technology itself. So we need to keep on training the AI, but we also need to, most importantly, even more than the AI in a way, is the method to deliver these workshops and sessions. So how do you embed, how do you change the practice of planning with AI? How do you change the skills? Because what AI is doing, basically, I was just reading on the Harvard Business Review, is going to turn the kind of shelf life of a skill, which now it's already quite short, it's 5 years. They were projecting that it's going to go to 2 years. So it means that because of AI, we need to reskill ourselves every 2 years. So that's what we're trying to do then. It's okay, we have this tech, we have an urban planning process, how do we change it? And we cooperate with many partners, but some of you to mention are the National Innovation Center of Aging in the UK, where we're trying to understand what kind of method and platform, kind of even how it should look like the platform to use Urbanist AI with aging population, which is going to be the majority soon. And then with Humankind, a Dutch company, we are rethinking how to use Urbanist AI, what kind of method, what kind of platform, how it should look like to do placemaking. Other examples are from one project which was financed by the Architects Council of Europe, which was indeed to develop a method and again platform for citizens' engagements with the youth. So with kids that are 5 to 10 years old. This was great. We had really false assumptions. They actually managed even to crack it. So like, yeah, they've been amazing. The kids, they've been an amazing surprise. And this was to basically redesign the backyards of their schools. So they had a very incredible and detailed sense of spatial settings. So they were extremely good at using the AI. And most importantly, instead of using some kind of guided prompt that we gave them, it's this kind of prompt maker that you just put some keywords and makes the prompt, they started to write on their own. Like, it was fantastic. But what kind of showed is that even children that could not write, so they're really like young, like 5 years old, 4 years old, they could still participate because they could express their ideas with the language of images. So I think this was fantastic, is that this technology can help us to communicate even beyond language. And I think this is super, super important to think of. And of course, to reach greater population, we have a mobile app that also lets cities to basically open this to their own citizens, of course, with some kind of geographic boundaries. And anyone within that area can actually take photos of the area, transform them, and send these kind of ideas or solutions to the city. So then we can do some kind of, let's say, mass co-design of the city. And this is going to be live in a couple of weeks. And where I'm today, actually, as I'm speaking from a hotel room, is I'm at the Mayor's Economic Growth. And together with the United Nations Development Program, we have actually also developed a method to use urbanist AI with mayors. So we just finished half an hour ago, literally, a workshop with mayors of different cities. So there were mayors from Ukraine, Moldova, what else? There was Azerbaijan, I don't remember all of them, well, Georgia. So there were like 6 groups with mayors from 6 different countries. And it was the mayors themselves basically co-creating the future of their own city. And it was a very interesting conversation. I think we're gonna make a report soon. And I think this was really one of the most interesting kind of workshops we've done this month. And then to conclude, exactly to keep saying that we keep on taking this technology forward, is that we have a partnership now with the Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Government Innovation in Dubai. Excuse me. And with them, we are basically making Dubai the first city in the world to train a local generative AI model. So we basically are collecting images to produce a localized generative AI model that would reflect Dubai the way they think about Dubai. I think this is fantastic because it will allow citizens as well as visitors to start to reimagine a city like Dubai, which is, it's definitely a city that has been kind of experimenting quite a lot. And I'm really curious to see what happens then this year when this is completed, but now it's going on. And what we're doing is that we're also taking the technology to the next step, which means we are moving to the 3-dimensional space. So we already have now functioning, but of course, it depends how this Dubai project when it ends. But we are basically going from generating images on the kind of a 2D level, or just PNG, to actually being able to work with 3D models. And this is because, for instance, in Dubai, like many other cities, there are those digital twins. So we have those white cubes of every building in the city, but we don't know really how can we use this to reimagine the future. And the second reason is because sometimes we need to reimagine the city according to some rules, some planning law. So we cannot just we cannot just say everyone, okay, let's reimagine the city, do whatever you want, right? So if we want to have a real project like the one in Helsinki, having a generative AI model that runs on 3D allow us to actually maintain size, proportions, and everything according to the plan. So then it's possible for citizens to truly be imaginative while keeping within the norms. So, and this is something that hopefully is going to be ready by next year, February. So this is just, it's not a demo, actually, this is kind of working, but it's not yet like a platform that you can interact with and so on. And that's it from our side. I think we're just on time. As I said, for us, the tech is important. What we really want to do is to harness the power of collective intelligence to reimagine the future of our cities. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, really, Damiano, for this exciting, fascinating presentation. I personally believe that it's an amazing solution you just presented precisely because it's not only a solution, like it's not only a technology, it's part of something bigger, of a system where you are reinventing like participatory planning. Like it's definitely not just a solution, technical solution, but it's something much more complex, which makes it very interesting and definitely fascinating. If you have any question, feel free to use the chat. We already have some questions, or to virtually raise your hand and directly ask your question to Damiano. Actually, Damiano, I have some questions for you just before sharing the stage. I was wondering, like, when you have a lot of data, let's say a lot of images with your first version, how do you analyze all these images? Do you do it manually, or are you using maybe another AI that is doing recognition analysis? So that's for my first question. And second question, I was wondering, so I know that actually the project is quite recent, but do you already see some notable differences in terms of design, output design, between, let's say, conventional project, urban planning project, and your co-created project? Maybe some elements that we see in your project that usually, let's say, urban experts don't have in mind.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll start from the second one. I would say no, actually, and it's a good thing. So I don't see a difference in the design. And what I mean by that is that what happens like in Helsinki, for instance, is that what the citizens do is that they express their ideas like, we would like here to have a cafe terrace, right? I mean, that's what the workshop is about. That's what the AI helps them to do. It helps them first to come up with that idea, because at first in the workshop, they can just play with different, this kind of prompt builder that helps them to try different things, so to make up their mind. But then the beautiful thing, I would say, it's exactly that the role of the architects, the role of the designer is unchanged. So they still have the job, the difficult job to do something nice, right? To design something useful, to design something surprising. Because if we would just build the city with AI, we might not have that surprise element that only an architect, only a trained designer could give us, right? So I would say that what has changed, for example, from that street in Helsinki, because before, last year, they did the same street, but without AI, of course, without kind of traditional method. It's more about the huge difference is in the distribution of the objects, and it's also in the functions, right? So the style of the architect who designed and built it is the same, because of course it's his style, her style, But what has changed is what is there and why is there. And that's a huge difference. I would say this is the most important thing. So what happens is that a designer can keep his own style and even do something new that is beautiful and surprising, while actually supplying the demand for change that comes from citizens. So that's why you really bring back forms, function, and utility in once. That's the biggest change. For the other question, we actually, so in these kind of sessions, citizens can choose their favorite images amongst the one that they produce, and then the favorites of the favorites are usually voted publicly or in small groups and so on. So we have a polling area where people can decide which ones are their favorite, and then there's public discussion and so on. So we don't use AI so much at the end. We use more kind of, we just kind of, sometimes if needed, but not always is needed. Mostly when we look into design guidelines, we do look at all the images produced, and we use some analytic method, but I don't know if they're AI or not. I need to ask Luca, who is not here now, to see which were the most wanted typologies of objects, and which also were the outliers. So which were the objects that maybe they were produced only by one person, but they received a lot of votes during the discussions. So these things we do look at, but I'm not sure if we use AI or only normal statistics method. This, unfortunately, I cannot know.
Eventually for the following version, or maybe.
Yeah.
We have a question from Shmuel. I hope I well pronounced your name. How, according to you, need encourage implementation AI technologies for development participatory urban design in places with poor and low social economic populations?
Sorry, can you just at the very beginning of the question? I missed it.
Basically, like how can we use like such technology as yours
Yeah.
for, let's say, less developed populations in the world?
Yeah, that's actually something we're working on with United Nations Development Program. Exactly, we're trying to find a way to bring it there. So, and there is almost no difference, to be honest. It's only a matter of basically finding the case. So convincing somebody locally to kind of run a workshop and everything. But the very first step, as usual, which maybe I didn't mention, we don't run the workshops actually. So what we do is that we co-design the workshop with our partners. So we help them to design the method and then they run it. We are there to help if needed. So the first step that we're doing now, also with the National Development Program, is to actually train, let's say, local champions in their communities who can then use the tech on their own without us, because we're not consultant. We are not there to, run a project. We are there to basically share what we've learned from previous workshops, and then they need to design, with our help, if needed, their own method, their own workshop, and so on. So that is usually how it works. So yeah, we don't run workshops, we don't do consulting. We just help our partners to develop a method in their own countries, in their own context, and so on. Also, exactly, also one thing that we're talking about right now, it's to also make the citizens part of the training, because the AI models are so generic. So when we train AI, when we start to build our models, of course, we start from open source collections of, how you say, tagged images and so on. So we start from open source collection of images. But what we want to do is that we want to, like we were doing Dubai also, is to get the citizens' photos. So to let them be part of the model since the very beginning. So the model is going to be tuned with the same people that later will use it to produce their own cities. So that's I would say is the highest goal that we have right now for us.
And that's actually very interesting, because we know that one of the main issues with AI is bias, and that when you are feeding your generative AI algorithm with biased images, at the end you have kind of generic images. So if you give local people, the possibility to tune their own solution, like your own algorithm, that could be definitely super interesting.
Absolutely, yes.
We have a question from Tassilo regarding actually the ecological and financial cost, obviously, of those generative AI. He's saying, I've heard that ChatGPT took months to train and it cost millions of dollars. How do you train your models? Do you cooperate with some company like Microsoft or others?
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure the actual number, but I think it was billions, even not millions, to train the. If you consider all the things they've trained, the server costs. If I'm right, it's not several millions. It's a couple of zeros more. So yes, this is the biggest challenge. But the difference, what it is that the large language models are actually much bigger than, let's say, generative AI models with images. So, and the point is that there is already a lot of open source data to start with. So we don't need to spend 50 million. Maybe we need to spend 200,000 to, let's say, tune a model for a city or another. And we need, maybe 100,000 images from that city as well. So yes, it does costs, but it's more in the range of a couple of hundreds of thousands. So I would say between 50 and maybe like 300,000. I don't know. It depends on how many images, how large is the model, and so on. So yes, this is kind of the range. But of course, if you're a big guy like DALL-E, they definitely put billions. They don't put hundreds of thousands in their models. But it doesn't matter. We don't need that. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that when you work with a community, you don't need to have a general. That's why it's so expensive to do the way they do, is because they're looking at the consumer market. We don't need to sell our app, on the Apple Store. So actually, we just need a model for one city or for one region, which it's more representative of that cultural background. So it's going to be much more useful for them, because if they write a farming house, the farming house is going to be their type of farming house. And also it's not going to cost as much because it's so much smaller. the model.
Thank you, Daniel. That's actually very interesting because last season we had an episode with a VC about financial ecosystem for urban technologies, and he said that one of the main issues is about the difficulty to scale for urban tech startup, and it's interesting to see in your case that actually it's a strength actually to be local. So that's a nice way of reversing the problem.
Yeah, we've been working on the opposite. So instead of scaling it up, we're trying to sort of, in a way, scale it down, because we noticed that there is more value when the models are smaller, but very specific, even to a topic. Like we could do a model which is trained only on, I don't know, climate change, disaster mitigation. We could have a model which is only trained on, I don't know, regreening the city, whatever, right? So actually, it makes the use of the AI more useful to that community, and the price and the cost of doing that much smaller.
Super interesting. Sorry for I think I didn't pronounce it well, but Simnovech is asking, will the new feature with 3D modeling allow just building modeling or also urbanism modeling?
No, actually, just the opposite. So you start from a ready-made model.
Another question from Anthony on this point. What are the data requirements for the 3D form generator?
Yeah, okay, it answers both actually. So you actually just start from a 3D model. I don't know if it's OBJ, what is the format, but because it's almost the opposite. So we don't want AI to generate, because there is better AIs that will do that actually. So there's many of, we focus on participation, right? We don't focus on design. So the main point is to give to the citizens the actual form in which they're freedom to transform, let's say. So instead of having a photograph, which is still good. So I don't think that this 3D model is not going to be used much by citizens, but more by, developers and stakeholders. But the point is that with the 3D model, whatever you imagine, it's always going to fit that dimensions that you gave. So that's the main reason, is because sometimes when people want to test different ideas, okay, what if this was a 2-lane street? What if this was a 5-lane street with, pedestrian on the side? AI model, generative AI model is not really good with measurements because they have just a photo. They don't know what the size is in the photos. So what we're trying to do by using an input, which is a 3D model, is that whatever you come up with, it's always going to fit in the rules of the existing city or in the future city. So if you have an empty lot, you can just give the massing, so the volumes of the maximum volumes allowed to be built there. And then with the AI, you can reimagine as much as you want how you could fill those volumes.
We have maybe one final question from Razan, who is asking, what are examples of cultural biases you encounter?
Oh. Sorry, yeah, just because so much, yeah, a lot. So that is the reason why we work with those communities to try to make some localized models. It's incredible, actually. Yes, it's incredible because some of these models, they mostly use images. Some of these models, they use renderings. But in renderings, there is cultural bias. Like even in, even these kind of visions that architects make sometimes, even in those, there is bias. So it's not even enough to say, okay, let's don't use any kind of public database of photographs. Let's try to kind of use renderings from cities that have never been built. But the bias, it's also there. So yeah, the example, I don't know, the most striking for me is agriculture. So if you write community gardening, urban gardening, all of these, clearly, like it's never, let's say, Central European gardening. It's always South somewhere, or other things is when you basically try to produce cars, it's always some big fantastic Ferrari or Mercedes that comes out. So honestly, it's everywhere. I mean, the bias, it's in everything you type in. Like I wouldn't say that there is one. I mean, the striking example for me is agriculture, just because it's the one that I see more kind of violently there in a way, extremely present. Even if I write community garden in the city, like, it looks like you are in some extremely kind of open landscape in Peru or something, some really beautiful, like people growing rice. So there is a lot of bias, and that's why we need to train smaller models locally.
Actually, I also have a question. I know I was wondering, do you consider integrating new interfaces for your solution, like not only prompt, but maybe voice interfaces or, you know, drawing interfaces, because you were talking about children that might be more comfortable with drawing than writing?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, so the kind of there is already now quite many interfaces. So like I don't know what we can take Svetbank here. We also see these are the different models. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different models that are trained with different type of images. So yes, when you start working with this, you have basically you almost never need to prompt actually, because when you are on the white canvas, so when you're trying to imagine the city, you actually, of course, if you want to write, you write, but otherwise you have a prompt builder that helps you out. So like a park, could be a picnic area with gardening. I don't know if now it's working actually because they're doing a workshop downstairs. So it could be that my results will mix up with theirs because we're using the same server. So there is a chance that now something really weird will come out. But yeah, that's the way. So you just select some keywords and then the AI is helping you to basically see if that's what you want. And again, this is now very slow because there is the workshop downstairs. Otherwise, usually it's kind of 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds to produce this. Yeah, now they're gonna appear. Okay, now it came out something. And then what you basically do is that if you like any of those, you basically start that image. And then as a group, you can test. So now I go on the guided interface here with real images. And you can actually start to transform them. So now let's say I developed that idea before, and now I test that idea on any of those images. So I go to custom prompt, there it is, you see, the one that I just generated, it's there. So if I click there, then basically the AI is going to take that concept developed in the abstract level, and it's trying to regenerate in the picture. So actually, you never need to prompt in a way. But yes, we did think about the vocal thing. We also written 2 Horizon 2020 projects to get it funded. So it's in the pipeline. We have not won any of those yet, but it's in the pipeline to just have voice to picture, basically. That will be absolutely the next step. Yeah, let's see. I don't know I cannot promise anything, as I said, because people are playing with this downstairs.
They might be influenced by the previous workshop?
No, they're still running it. So
okay.
they're still running it. Yeah, so there is another workshop down right now. So basically what can happen, since we're using the same machine right now, it can happen that I wrote something because I have low priority right now. So downstairs, they have high priority. So what can happen is that what I said, I mean, what we're seeing might be that, no, everything is fine. We're seeing my prompts. It's all good. So now you can see the urban pocket park there. And then again, you get quite a big diversity, and then you can select the images and go ahead and so on. And then with the children. So if you're with the kids, you just go kids interface, which is a bit different again. So usually, again, they have these terrible images of this place now, but the difference is exactly they have just these kind of icons to start to think about what they want. They also have those printed out actually, and they can just kind of tap on an image. And then it's going to produce it, and they have a discussion. They vote with their hands up. It's just super fun. I mean, with the kids, it's just so much fun. I mean, I don't know. It's just so much fun. Like the voting part, they just love it. Just love to say, like, when the images come out, then we ask, okay, which one is your favorite? And then, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just amazing. Like it's amazing to see that for us, taking a decision usually it's a conflict. It's a conflict. So, like, if you would ask in a workshop to adults, hey, which image do you like? Put your hands up. People will end up fighting in a way, you know? Not really, but it's always a bit conflictual. But with the kids, it's fun. They kind of laugh, and it's great. But anyway, sorry, this was a bit longer answer, maybe too long.
Thanks a lot. No, but you're actually right, and that's why that's super interesting. All those projects, all those work about children-centric city involving more and more children in like urban planning process, because at the end you have like surprising, unexpected results with this approach. Just to let you know, all of you, we asked you a question at the end of your presentation, Damiano. We asked you, in your opinion, how will generative AI transform urban planning? Half of you said by making it more inclusive, then 27% by making it more efficient, then 40% by making it more sustainable, and lastly, 9% of you believe that it will make it more resilient.
Okay.
Any reaction, Damiano?
Yeah, maybe they were influenced by what I was saying, but yeah, this is at least the way that I like to see this technology going. Like, I like to see this technology to go towards the direction that it can share power and it can share, let's say, it's, I don't know, I really see this as a communication technology, not as a design tool. This, I would say, it's what I think it is. And planners are not going to be removed. Architects are not going to lose their job. They're just going to learn how to talk to people with these tools. I think that's the only difference is going to be, is that they need to be, they will not lose their job. They will actually learn a new skill, which is communication through images. I guess that is the future of planning. It's the same like today, just a bit better, incrementally better.
Thanks a lot, Damiano. It was really a great pleasure of welcoming you for this opening episode. It was definitely fascinating. For our next episode next week, same time, we will continue discussing on generative AI, but this time we'll try to understand with Aino World how generative AI can be used to augment not people, but urban planners. So it might be also super interesting. This session will be hosted by Anthony Thompson. The link to join us, to register, is in the comments. Thanks to all of you for joining this session, for your questions and your comments, and see you next week.
See you, bye-bye.